Welcome everybody to Builder Nation. Today we are excited to introduce Tailos, a pioneering company in AI-driven automation solutions. Tailos focuses on transforming the commercial cleaning industry with their autonomous robot vacuum, Rosie, designed for complex indoor environments like hotels and residential buildings. Tailos also provides real-time data analytics to optimize housekeeping operations, enhancing both efficiency and cleanliness standards. Keep watching to learn how Tailos is reshaping the future of commercial cleaning. Today, we are joined by Micah Green, President and CEO at Tailos. Welcome, Micah. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, well, there are many things I want to ask because I was checking about you, about your story, about Tailos, but let's start from the beginning. You were studying at university, and after you took a class where you had to work as a housekeeper, right? You were inspired to create Rosie. Can you tell us more about that moment?
Yeah, 100%. So a little background, I had been building robots for fun when I was growing up and loved it, just loved building something from nothing and that theme. And then ended up going to university for entrepreneurship. That was actually part of a hospitality program. So hospitality and real estate. And as part of that, just like you mentioned, I had to take a introduction to hotel operations class, where you learn all about the industry and operations, but you also actually have to work in the hotel on campus. So the aha moment was I was literally working as a room attendant or a housekeeper, cleaning hotel rooms in this student-run hotel. And through that experience, learned a lot. First of all, really difficult position. And, even me at the time, being a university student who was healthy, athletic, it's really physically demanding. And then started to learn about the labor crisis, that it's very difficult to attract and retain staff in the industry. And even at this hotel, they had those challenges. So saw a lot of those problems and then realized that this hotel, which was a leading edge hotel, best practices, best technology, still used walkie-talkies, clipboards, the same tools that they've been using for decades, and saw that there's an opportunity to really change that and bring this property and the industry really into the 21st century. And robotics seemed like a really good solution to bring that technology there, help solve the labor crisis and help at least augment. And that's where the idea was born and was off to the races.
Wow, that's crazy because I read that you were doing this program and then you dropped out university to be 100% focused on this project.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that from the start it was called MadeBot, but then you rebranded as Tailos. And what inspired this evolution?
Yeah, for sure. You've done some really good research, I see. So MadeBot, pretty straightforward, like made for cleaning, bot for, robots. Made was pretty limiting and also not necessarily the best terminology to reference, the cleaning. And bot was focused, it kind of alludes to more hardware versus, hardware and software. So it felt limiting as a name, and it was great to start, but really wanted something that encompassed the vision. And what we're doing is we're building machines so that humans can live. That's our purpose as a company. And our first step towards that is Rosie, as we talked about a little, which is focusing on commercial floor cleaning. So we are focused on cleaning. We are focused on cleaning robotics for commercial real estate, but that's our first step. Eventually, there's going to be this ecosystem of robots that do everything from cleaning, delivery, security, and they're all talking to each other, even deploying each other, which is pretty exciting through multi-robot operation. So with that vision in mind and the data that you touched on earlier too, there's a much broader vision and purpose that we have here. And Tailos, I literally went on Wikipedia and found that Tailos was the first robot in history through Greek mythology. Really, the robot was there to protect the humans of Crete, the island of Crete, and work alongside the humans. And I felt like that felt very fitting because we see our robots as working alongside humans, helping the humans, and really there to be, support to what exists. And it sounded, like a strong name that we could move in many different directions. So.
Yeah, like it's not just focus on one, it's like a whole world of that, right?
100%, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And well, now that we are talking about Rosie, I don't know if you named her after the robot from the Jetsons, if I am.
Yeah,
Yeah? Yeah, okay. Because when I hear the name, I was like, this name sounds familiar to me, Rosie,
yeah,
the robot. So yeah, I was like, yeah, it's from the Jetsons, right? So
yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah. How this evolved from the initial concept, because I saw the first prototype that you did and it's totally different.
Yeah, so I just have to pull out my Rosie from the office as a
Love
reference,
it.
so a little bobblehead, commemorate that. But yeah, so really that's part of the vision too. And I had watched reruns growing up and saw that Rosie was really helpful for this family. It was cool, it was fun, but then realized that one of the thoughts there was if you go back to the 1970s. You reflect on things like Apple at the time, Microsoft, some of these companies that really built the industry and created personal computing, and you do that for the 90s for the internet, and look at how transformative that was. Something through the robotics program I did growing up was the director would keep telling us that robots are the next wave. So just like personal computing in that period, internet in that period, robotics are for the 2020s. And that's what really sparked that interest and that excitement. And humanoid robots make a lot of sense. There's been more buzz out there, and there are companies coming out and making some really good progress, including like Tesla with the Optimus. So still definitely want to go in that direction. But I think there's a lot of opportunity to have purpose-built robotics that work in that ecosystem, which is how we're tackling it slightly differently, where you have dedicated robots focused on specific tasks, and then they can work together. And eventually, one day, that's going to combine into one humanoid robot. Is really what I see as happening.
Wow, that's really cool, because I was watching some videos of how Rosie operates, and it's really like I also searched the cases that you use, and that Rosie helps to improve 5 minutes, 0.5, something like that.
Yeah.
In all these tasks for the housekeepers, for hotels, etc.
Yeah, so the value proposition that we're seeing, and it's actually we've learned a lot. I started the company 9 years ago, and it's a lot of R&D getting to a product that works. Now we have about 1,000 robots deployed all over the world. We're in a few continents, and we've learned a ton about different operations. So we're in hotels, apartment buildings, senior living, kind of all over the place. Cruise ships, which is interesting, and really the value prop that we see. So you mentioned the 5 minutes. There's a significant amount of time that can be saved. And really, there's a few elements that you can do with that. So it's really up to the operators what they do at that time, whether it's call it 5 minutes per room or multiple hours for the public space per day. But they can start to reallocate that time. So that house person in a hotel, for example, that has so many things that they need to get done, like stripping the beds and the linens, bringing linens to room attendants, vacuuming, tidying up other areas, cleaning the elevators, the sconces, things like that. There's not enough time in a day to do it all. And cleanliness is the most important factor when you're looking at hotels, right? In terms of booking and satisfaction. So now if you take that vacuuming, which we're focused on, out of the equation, where you just have the robots take care of that, they can focus on those other things. They can deliver the linens faster, which means room attendants can be more efficient. They can clean the sconces and do the tasks that maybe they didn't have time to do. They could deep clean parts of the property they didn't have time before. And just from that, there's a lot of value. The domino effect of that is happier team members. So we see that house people who are using it love the product, and we have really, really high satisfaction in terms of the users. If they love it, it's easy to use, it takes that load off. And that's where trying to retain that staff is really helpful by giving them tools like this. If you have to decide between, I'm going to work at this hotel or that hotel, and this one gives me a robot that can take this off, and the pay's the same or, similar, that's going to make a difference. And then, the cleanliness scores will go up as well. And you have guessed that it's just inherently cool. People love robots, and that's not why we started this. I mean, robots are very cool, but that's one piece as well, as you start to see guests that are excited and book those, and then also the cleanliness of the property itself goes up. So, it's not, a lot of people have this misconception of, oh, you're taking jobs, you're taking away that from others. But a few facts: there's 2 million open positions in the U.S. alone for hospitality, vacant positions that they can't fill. And then, of course, they've increased wages and other things to attract more staff. But the average age of a housekeeper is 60 years old, 60. So it's an aging demographic, and they don't want their kids to do it. We've literally heard that from several room attendants we've worked with. So you have this kind of change there, or they're starting to work at Amazon distribution centers or, other places that may have better benefits or pay, depending on the location. So really you have that. And what we're seeing is that in reality, you're creating resiliency for the people that are there. How do you make the lives easier for that person where really they're doing the work for 2 or 3 people? Now you take some of that load off so that they're happier, they have a better quality of life, they end up staying at that property longer.
Yeah, it's like the robot helps. It's not that take the job out from that person, it's just helping. Yep. And I think it's for the hospitality industry is really useful to have this. As you said, is a person doing the job that is going to be for 3 people. So it's really, really important to have this also to help these ones. And
I just to jump in, just because there's an analogy somebody on the team mentioned the other day of, if you have somebody that needs to cut down trees, as an example, you can give them an axe or a chainsaw. They still need to cut the trees down. Which are you going to give them? So we see this as we're going towards the, chainsaw with Rosie versus the traditional vacuum like the axe. Now imagine how much more they can do at that time. So
it's really, really helpful. And now that we are comparing with a normal vacuum, what are the key features that differentiates Rosie from that other commercial cleaning robots or for the normal vacuum that exists on the market?
Yeah, for sure. We get that question a lot too. So really, I started the company asking the same question or a similar question of why aren't those being used? So if we look at the consumer robots, like the Roomba, iRobot's Roomba is kind of the industry standard. Dyson has one. There's some other companies out there as well. Really, that's not designed for commercial. So the analogy I use there is like, you don't need to drive an 18-wheeler to work. You can take a sedan or SUV. But you need an 18-wheeler to transport cargo. You're not going to stuff it with boxes if you're transporting a ton of cargo. So in that setting, like the assumptions that are different are speed and efficiency. If you're using a Roomba at home, you can just hit on, let it loose, and you go out to work or go out for the day, whatever. You typically don't have as much of a kind of time pressure that you have to get it done. Whereas our robot, can be 10 times faster than a Roomba. So our algorithms, our actual self-driving algorithms, are the most advanced and best in the world for indoor floor coverage that we've seen to date. So that's one big thing, is efficiency. The second piece is durability. So when you look at a Roomba, that they've actually been tried and tested in hotels, the batteries melted within a couple of weeks, parts would break off, motors would burn out in weeks. Not designed for that. It's designed to be used a few times a day. Rosie's designed to be used every single day for hours, which is really cool to see because it is. The motors, the components, like everything that's designed into that is built to last for industrial use. So that's another big feature. The ease of use, it's actually easier to set up and use than a Roomba. You don't even need to map. You don't need to set anything up. The robot's ready to use out of the box, and day to day, it's very simple to use as well. The cleanliness is another huge factor. It's a vacuum at the end of the day and needs to clean well. Rosie cleans about 4 to 5 times more powerfully than a Roomba. And really that's because our impeller design and how we design the hardware is meant to clean better than the standard upright vacuum. So what we're seeing now is a lot of those vacuums are turning into door stops because the robot actually does a better job cleaning and tells you where it's cleaned versus, a human that's more doing spot cleaning as well. And the last piece is data, which you mentioned earlier on in the conversation. The robot's capturing data on what's going on in the environment. So what areas is it covering, how much time, square footage, things like that, operational data, all the way to Wi-Fi signal strength, we can tell you, and other environmental sensing. So you can see what's going on in the environment by the square foot. So not just a sensor on a wall, but moving sensors that are going every square foot in a building pretty much every day. So those are the key differences, I'd say.
Yeah, I was just about to ask about the data collection. How does this improve the cleanliness standard?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think there's insights that you don't have today. So you can see where has the robot cleaned and where has it not cleaned. One specific example of that is our robot tells you exact percentages of the area that's cleaned and also the edge cleaning percentages. So you can see if I have a hallway, how much of the edges have actually been vacuumed. Not just even covered, but actually vacuumed and covered to the point where it's considered clean. So you have that introspection. And then the user can even say, okay, well, I need it to clean this one specific spot. So we have a spot clean mode, maybe it missed a spot or there was somebody in the way. So you have that introspection where now you can start to make decisions based on that info. Whereas today, I mean, you just have a human with a vacuum, right? So they're looking, they're doing the spot cleaning, but they're not necessarily cleaning the whole space. So what we find is the robots actually, really pick up a ton of debris when we deploy in a new property. Bags need to be replaced within a day or two. But then it's about once a week that you swap that out. So yeah, just the data there, and then even understanding like cleanliness, air quality data, stuff like that, gives insights that they just haven't had before. It's turning the invisible visible. So,
wow, that's crazy because, as you said, they have many features that differentiate from other vacuum the normal ones, or another robots that, as you said, that after 1, 2, or 3 days they are wasted because they don't have the components, or they are not built for that. So I think that is really, really cool and really helpful, especially for, of course, the hospitality industry that needs to clean every day, probably every hour, with all the rooms that they have and everything. So I think it's really, really important and helpful too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much data that's valuable. Data can be noise, but it's how do you make it actionable? How do you take it to the next level where you can do something with it? So one idea that we have that's not in the robot yet, but imagine that the robot could detect bed bugs, right? It's going into the rooms, it's cleaning, it's already there, it's already covering the space. Well, what if it could detect bed bugs? You can send that alert to the head of housekeeping or whoever needs to see that. And now all of a sudden they say, okay, I need to take care of these bed bugs because that's a huge problem. And I need to do it before a guest finds out because that's an even bigger problem. So, being able to give that insight, give that actionability from this, that's the difference between the data versus the true insights where you can start to work. And I'm excited because it's a platform. You can do a lot of different things with that.
Yeah, that's true. And as I said, it's crazy how this can evolve. And I imagine that for this to have this great product, you have to do many tests before. So I want to know, what challenge did you face while you were developing Rosie, and how did your team and you overcome them to create an effective AI-driven cleaning solution?
Yeah, no challenges. Everything was perfect. Just kidding. Robots are really hard. And I describe Rosie as like a mini self-driving car. The robot uses LiDAR technology, cameras, a lot of the same types of algorithms. The robot has to cover every square foot. So that's the difference versus point A to point B. But you still need the consistency, the reliability. So in terms of the challenges, I mean, that was some of the biggest issues we had up front, which now we've solved entirely. And it feels very good. I'm very proud of the team for doing that. But how do you have that consistent behavior, that confident behavior? So starting with the hardware, we would have issues where motors would burn out quickly. We'd have issues where certain parts were just not working, where the data coming in from the LiDAR was inconsistent and not the right LiDAR to use. So when you're dealing with hardware and you're kind of bringing it into the physical world, especially in these environments that are more kind of commercial, a lot of stuff can come up and the expectations are really high. So we actually ended up redesigning the robot from scratch, basically, a few years ago, based on some of the findings that we had. And I'd say we officially launched in the past couple of years. And have a product that's extremely reliable, great mean time between failure, like issues on the robot, and really, ready to use out of the box. These were key priorities for us where we could drop ship those. And a lot went into that. So we have a phenomenal team. We have a hardware team, a robotic software, a cloud team, with some of the smartest engineers I've ever met and people I've ever met, who are just extremely passionate about what we're building. One of our core values is relentless perseverance. That's something that we hire or fire by, is you need relentless perseverance in this team because what we're doing is so hard. We're not, there's a lot of other things we could have done that were more straightforward or had less challenges, but our robot has hundreds of components. It's designed from scratch here in Austin, Texas. So yeah, long story short, I'd say reliability and that performance and the consistency, because if, you could have all the ROI data and it could help do X, Y, and Z, but if they can't rely on that, just like you rely on your car or your computer or your phone, then they're not going to adopt. They're not going to love it. And we need and want room attendants and house people and whoever's using it to love that experience and love how this helps them and doesn't add extra work. So that took a ton of testing, a lot of iterations. I can't even tell you how many iterations, and really just getting feedback from customers. And we consistently iterate and have a really good cycle of prioritizing. We basically take in, feedback from customers and measure, okay, for the customers that we lost in terms of we didn't close the deal, why did we not close the deal? What features were missing? And then for the customers that churned, that said, okay, I'm not going to continue with this contract anymore. Why? What were the features or the things missing? Both of those things have actually shrunk a lot, which is great. It's a good sign that we're kind of moving in the right direction. But there's a whole process I won't get into now, but it could be interesting for the audience, is just being able to take that cycle, close the loop consistently. And we do this on a quarterly basis. What do we need to do and improve so that we create the best possible experience for the customer and the user?
Yeah, of course, because as you said, you need to talk with the customers, because they are going to tell you what they need exactly. So if they said that they need something, you have to do it. You have to make your product improve that, because you want to keep them, of course. So I think that it's really important, and also have a team that works with you, works with the same vision, with the same goal to achieve that is really, really important too.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that mindset, right, of like they have a lot more information than we have, right? We don't want to be in a vacuum. So no pun intended. But our team, it's interesting to see the cultural shift of just phenomenal engineering team across the board. Our entire team it's like the Amazon mentality, obsessed with customers, customer feedback. How can we be better? How can we constantly learn and grow and iterate based on that? And that culture and that kind of shift, like I'd say, that's evolved and gotten better over time. It's amazing, because anybody, whether it's a software engineer or a mechanical engineer or a salesperson, they love getting in front of that customer and having those conversations and asking the right questions so that we can hear what they think, because we can make a lot of decisions internally, which we did initially, and a lot of those were bad decisions. But if we can get enough data and enough feedback and really just talk to the people that matter at the end of the day, who we're building this for, that is just, it's gold.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. And now that we are talking about challenge, I want to talk about the challenge that you had or you have now, I don't know, in today's business. Like where was the most significant challenge that you had in the past or now in your procurement process, and what strategies do you use to ensure your supply chains remain resilient and adaptable in these days or before? I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, no, it's hard, because it's a hard thing to do, and it's a very complex product with, as I mentioned, literally hundreds of parts on this robot. The biggest challenge I'd say was during COVID. In the supply chain, there were components, like I think Apple bought some of the sensors, like almost the world supply of sensors, time of flight sensors, which are, the ones that detect your cheek. And we needed those for our robots. It was almost impossible to find those or get those anywhere. We had some components that went up from $1 to $30 each. So you can imagine that starts to add up too. And the supply of those things, just the availability of that, demand stayed the same, if not even increased, but then the supply of it went way down. That caused issues for just access and for cost. Now we're, in really good shape with our manufacturing partner. They've handled supply chain, and we have a really good design and kind of process around that. But, I'd say like it's constant iteration, and how, the technologies are improving. So we have a LiDAR today. There's other LiDARs that didn't exist when we first designed this. There's other types of technology. The cameras, as an example, too. There's all sorts of cameras that are more cost effective and better than maybe what we're using today. So we are constantly iterating on that, as well as we have future builds. But yeah, I think part of it is keeping up with that, because as that technology gets better, we can do so much more with the product and with the robot. And but there's a lot of work behind the scenes to make that happen. So
yeah, that's true. And I think most of the companies that start before or during COVID take this time like really hard, as you said, that you needed one piece and Apple took everything for them. So I think that was hard for everybody that start before or during the pandemic too. I understand that. Yeah, but well, I want to know, talking now again about the Tailos, about the future in this technology. What advancements do you foresee in AI-driven automation for the hospitality industry over the next 5-10 years? And how is Tailos preparing for these changes?
Yeah, for sure. So, getting more robots out there to begin with, that's like baseline. We and many other companies that we're friendly with, this is still the revolution. This is not, this has not been a thing for 20 years, 30 years. We're still just getting units out. How do you create the SOPs and really get this integrated? So it's one thing to have a product, but to have one that is integrated into a certain thing, I'd say that's a big focus for all of us, is just where we're at today. But that ecosystem is something I'm extremely excited about. So swarm technology or multi-robot operation, where they're actually communicating and making decisions. Let's say a delivery robot detects debris on the floor. Someone has crumbs. Well, if that robot could send a signal to Rosie and say, hey, go pick up this part of the map, and the robot just goes and it's fully autonomous and comes back, that I see as the kind of next iteration of this. And you have this ecosystem that's connected, working together, making decisions on their own, and even robots deploying each other, which sounds kind of crazy, but I think that's good. I just saw a video today of a robot changing a drone battery for a commercial drone. And it makes a ton of sense. It's this repeatable stuff. So even deploying the robots are repeatable. How can you make that even easier? The data side that I mentioned too, you're going to start to see a lot more of that data coming together, where you can start to see different trends too, that are going on in the environments, in hotels, apartments, whatever it might be. And then things you can do when you connect that data to each other and start to see what those patterns are. I think that's here and going to continue to grow and evolve as we see. And then looking at Gen AI, so generative AI like ChatGPT, that's been really exciting for us. We use that in so many ways. So for coding, it helps us reduce number of lines of code, check the code, do things like that. You can start to get more out because of that. And then the other side too is customer service. ChatGPT can actually view which runs of the robot are poor and help filter out what should we be focusing on and how can we be proactive. So I think there's ways that ChatGPT, Gemini, these types of tools work, help me every day and the team. But then in terms of the actual development, providing a better experience, there's a domino effect that comes from that. So yeah, I think ecosystem data and Gen AI kind of implemented in this is going to be totally different world that we've never seen before.
Yeah, totally. And I think that is something that is going to happen eventually. And I can't wait to see how it goes, because as I told you, I was checking also Tailos, and I was checking all the things that Rosie can do. And I can imagine if you have a whole ecosystem of that, will be really cool and helpful, of course, for industries, for people, for many things. So I think it's something that is going to happen, and I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, totally. And it's fun. I have some friends that send me photos. They see Rosie at a hotel they're staying at, or a friend of a friend. It's exciting now that they're kind of getting out there, and you see these food and beverage robots that are serving or picking up glasses, empty glasses, stuff like that. So this is the time. It's happening right now, and it's really exciting, and I'm very grateful to be part of this. So
yeah, totally. And to finish with this interview, what is the advice that you will have to hear years ago before starting with this journey that you think is important for the young entrepreneurs that are starting now?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot here. So when I'm asked this, it's hard to narrow it down, but I'd say the biggest thing that I've learned is that relentless perseverance. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, the most technical, the list goes on. But if you can just keep moving one foot forward, keep going towards it, if you believe in it enough, and that is an assumption, right? You need to love the why. You need to love what you're doing, and believe in it, even when it, is going through the ups and the downs. It's really, really hard. Whether you're building robots or anything, it's extremely hard to bring something new to this world. But you can. It's very possible. But it takes that persistence and that perseverance to just keep going. So I'd say find something you love, which is not easy, but if you're extremely passionate about, and just keep going one step at a time.
Yeah, and also I read on an interview that you gave years ago, I think, that you said that you have to find something to wake up, and that motivates you to wake up, like feel wake up to do it.
Yeah. No, it's again, did some really good research. Yeah, it's something that once, I'll be honest, it's not like every single day I jump out of bed and say, I'm so excited for today. This is the best. Like there's challenges, but something that, energizes, and that passion, and you feel that fire. And I, even just talking to you now, it's like I can feel it in myself. It's that gut feeling that no one else can define for you. And it can take time, and can take some experiments, but we all have it, I think, in different ways, whatever that might be. And I hope that, I can empower people to do what they love at the end of the day. And that's really what I see as one of my core purposes internally is, empower people to do what they love, because life is short. And if you do what you love, the world's going to be a better place. So.
Yeah, that's totally true. I agree with you. And I thank you so much, Micah, for being here and sharing all your experience with us. It was really helpful to hear your ideas. And I want to know where we can find you and Tailos, any social media or website.
Yeah, for sure. So Tailos, just so everybody knows, it is spelled Tailos. So you can go to tailos.com. And you can reach out to us there. You can find us on social media. LinkedIn's pretty much our most active, and Facebook. So you can find us there, reach out. Always looking to get robots out there in terms of if you run a building or know of one, hotels. If you're interested in position, we're always looking for phenomenal interns or roles. And just generally, feel free to drop us a line.
Yeah, perfect. And for everybody that is watching, remember that you can find more information, interesting articles, and interviews directly on our website, buildernation.io, and as Builder Nation on LinkedIn. Thanks again for being part of this community. We will see you in the next episode. Thanks again, Micah, for joining us.
Thanks so much, Taksha.